Thank you. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Can you help me go? Let's go through some metrics first, and then I want to get into another thing. How many people do you have that actually do these interviews?
Okay. Presently, we have approximately 270 asylum officers that interview.
And how many cases do you have pending?
With the credible fear process, we probably have pending at any given point, I would say 1,000 to 2,000 cases. We have a 14-day turnaround on our cases.
And how many are you going to be processing or doing this year?
We are on track to interview all cases that are referred to us, which would be approximately 29,000 cases in the credible fear context.
And how much of an increase is that over the last 5 years?
That is an increase of approximately 400%, as the newspaper account had it today. The rates flow back and forth. So, for example, we had 13,000 in 2001, but we hit a low in 2009 of 5,300, and now we're up to, as I said, about approximately 29,000.
How much time does somebody who works for you, how much time does it take to go through one particular case?
An individual spends approximately an hour to an hour and a half interviewing. I would estimate that an additional 45 minutes to an hour would be for documenting the case and the decision. So I think a decision reasonably takes about 2.5 hours.
Once somebody has, part of the justification for asylum is the idea that they have, there's some fear if they return. What happens when somebody actually does return to that area? Do you have any visibility when somebody actually goes and returns back to the country they said?
Well, we are only returning individuals that we ascertain do not have either a credible fear or a well-founded fear.
But if they go through the process and they're granted asylum, is there any flashing red light that goes off in any department or agency that says, wow, this person said they had some credible fear coming out of Russia, but now they've gone back to Russia? What, does anything go, does any bell ring? Does anybody get a warning? Is there any?
Individuals that avail themselves of the country that they said that they feared, their asylum status can be terminated under the statute. We do have referrals from CBP. They are not great in number, though.
Is there a system in place for that to show up on your radar screen?
The individual entering the country, returning back to the United States, would go through CBP at the inspection point, and it's at the inspection point that.
So on the departure, there's no visibility for you?
And that is my understanding.
So in the case of the Boston bombing situation, where you had the father of the two suspects wanting to return and go to Russia, that didn't show up on anybody's radar screen?
I'm precluded due to confidentiality regulations from discussing that case in this forum. We would certainly be quite happy to provide you a briefing in a confidential and classified setting concerning our interactions, USCIS's interactions with the Boston bombers. I can speak in general, however, that individuals that do return, and they must return to their country of feared persecution in which they were granted asylum based on that fear to that country, they can be subject to a termination of asylum if they avail themselves of the protection.
And how many of those have you said it was a small number. How often does that happen?
I don't have that I've got a lot of statistics, but I don't have that statistics handy now. I can certainly get that for the record.
In two notable cases, one in New York regarding the 10 law firms, another one in California, there were, according to press reports, there could have been about 1,800 people that were put through that process. How many of those have you re-interviewed since it came to light that they may have been fraudulent?
We are reviewing all cases. This is an ongoing investigation. Arrests are still being made. We have captured the data on who is associated with those law firms, who the law firms represented. We are tracking them, and we will be examining each individual case. But the prosecution is still ongoing, and we are in the evidence-gathering stage to pursue.
These didn't happen last week. I mean, that one case goes back, I think, to 2003. So how many of the 1,800 have you actually re-interviewed?
That's a figure that I don't have. I do have that we have captured all of these cases. I can get that figure back to you.
Okay.
But again, it is an ongoing investigation, so we're looking for evidence coming from the individuals themselves when they plead. That would be very good to have in the termination.
My time has gone past.